William Harrison Benson by May Chalmers. William Harrison Benson was a true Vermonter. He was born on December 27, 1839, and raised by his parents, Amory Benson, a doctor, and Abigail Drown, a homemaker, in the tranquil town of Landgrove, Vermont. William was the second youngest in a family of 13 children. Growing up with 8 brothers and 4 sisters must have been crazy, but for the most part they all got along and had lots of fun together. As a doctor, William's father made enough money for the Bensons to live in a moderately sized house. Their house was located in Landgrove Hollow, near the small one-room schoolhouse the children attended, the Landgrove Post Office, and the Flood Brook. A crunchy dirt road bordered lush woods and expansive pastures, dotted with Jersey cows and horses. The sounds of birds chirping and children laughing could be heard, and a strong scent of horse manure wafted through the town. Although summer was beautiful, the season that brought most beauty and joy to Landgrove was fall, when the ground is strewn with a kaleidoscope of leaves, and frost twinkles in the early light, blanketing the stiff grass. But not only was fall appreciated because of its beauty, but because of its hunting. Fall was hunting season, every man's favorite time of the year. William and his best friend Carmelus T. Warner, or as William called him, Millie, would trek through the woods tracking down love-struck bucks. Little did they know, in less than a month they would be tracking down war-struck Confederates. At age 22, on December 21, 1861, William enlisted into the army, and 10 days later he mustered in. William would soon realize that being at war was a dramatic change from life at home. The sounds he heard were no longer cows mooing, but cannons booming. The familiar scent of horse manure was gone, and replaced with the rancid scent of blood. He no longer watched children playing and animals frolicking, but desperate dying men and horses. It was extremely brave for William to enlist in the army, and his family was very proud of him. He was the first of his brothers to enlist in the army. William made history in the Benson family. During the time William enlisted in 1861, there was no incentive to enlist in the army, such as the cash reward, so I can tell that he enlisted into the army because of pure patriotism and the urge to serve his country, in hopes that it would stay united. Patriotism like William's is expressed in James Sloan Gibbon's poem, 300,000 More. You have called us and we're coming, by Richmond's bloody tide, to lay us down for freedom's sake, our brothers' bones beside, or from foul treason's savage group to wrench the murderous blade, and in the face of foreign foes its fragments to parade. 600,000 loyal men and true have gone before. We are coming, Father Abram, 300,000 more. In simpler words, men are enlisting in the war because Father Abraham Lincoln, has called them, required tents to send men to war. The men are coming to fight in war for freedom's sake and for their country. They are coming to fight the traitorous Confederates. Life in war is arduous, with long months away from family, monotonous marching, menial labor, insufficient food and water, uncomfortable sleeping quarters, and diseases. William may have thought war would be full of exhilarating and glorious battles, defending his country, but much to his, and many other soldiers' surprise, war was more mundane than glorious, the erratic moments of pure terror. R.W. Toole of the 4th Regiment, Vermont, sent a letter home describing a day at camp like this. Evening. Today we had a brigade drill of 3 hours in forenoon, and bayonet drill in the afternoon, which with other duties, and considering the depths of mud, makes a good, stiff day's work. Hearing a day of war described like that, along with the gruesome tales of battles, would discourage men from wanting to enlist. But luckily, soldiers did have free time, during which they could be found telling stories, reading books such as the Bible, writing or reading letters, doing miscellaneous chores, and playing games or singing. Soldiers had to prepare their own meals, which they are not used to, since at home their wives or a maid would prepare meals for them. Unfortunately, the food and water at war were miserable. Meals were repetitive and water was usually contaminated. William had to prepare most of his meals with salted pork or beef, hardtack, and compressed cubes of dissociated mixed vegetables and potatoes. Since the water was mostly contaminated, the soldiers would drink coffee. The Union soldiers were lucky and supplied with many coffee beans to make coffee. Coffee became a staple drink for soldiers during the Civil War, and they relied on it for energy. If they didn't have enough time to boil water, soldiers would chew on coffee beans while marching or working. William was fortunate to have his best friend Millie at war with him. Both having a knack for shooting, William and Millie enlisted into the army as sharpshooters, and both passed the test. Having the title of a sharpshooter in the army was an honor, almost as good as being a sniper. William and Millie fought in many battles together and were both part of Company H. Unfortunately, William's life was taken from him, along with thousands of other soldiers, during the Battle of Antietam. This battle took place on September 17, 1862, near Sharpsburg, Maryland. William's death was a horrible surprise to his friends and family, but in the big picture, it was not surprising that he died during the Battle of Antietam. It was the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, with about 23,000 casualties on both the north and the south side. It was early morning, and the Confederate and Union soldiers were both heading towards an expansive cornfield that would soon be flattened and bloody, scattered with thousands of dead men. William and Millie did their best to hold their head high, leading the Union army into the heat of the battle. With 191 sharpshooters at their sides as they entered the cornfield, welcomed with the ear-shattering boom of a cannon and gunshots coming from the 18th Regiment Georgia, who led the Confederates. William tried to concentrate, despite the gunshots whizzing through the cornfield and the screams of the dying penetrating his ears. He forged his way through the brittle corn stalks, preparing his gun. In his haste, William's sweating hand slipped from his gun, and in the split second he was bringing his hand back to his gun, a barrel came barreling towards him, shot from the barrel of a determined Confederate's gun. Before he could move, William felt a searing pain shoot through his body. Screaming, he fell to the ground, the taste of blood in his mouth, and the shock of the bullet hitting him still fresh in his mind. Blood was gushing from his arm, and men trampled over him. But despite the pain, he looked up, trying to find Millie, trying to find someone he knew, someone who could tell his family that he loved them, that he hadn't died in vain. But before he could, everything went black. William was later brought to a hospital, but much to Millie and William's family despair, he died 10 days later. William died bravely while fighting for his country, the best way any man could die. This story ends where it began, when William's body was brought back to Landgrove and buried. He shares an elegant gravestone with his mother and father in the old Landgrove Cemetery. William Harrison Benson's life started and ended in Vermont. He was certainly a true Vermonter.